Welcome to Noise Between Stations, the podcast about the potential of digital design. I'm your host, Victor Lombardi. I hope you enjoy the show. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Rosenfeld Media. I'm a customer, and I think Rosenfeld Media is the highest quality source of user experience expertise available today. They publish books, organize events, and offer consulting. Check them out at rosenfeldmedia.com. Once in a while, in the progress of digital technology, we designers get to go beyond simply refining an existing design and get a chance to create a whole new way of doing things. To paraphrase Bill Buxton, it's the difference between, quote, getting the design right and getting the right design, unquote. Designers like myself love these opportunities to tap into all our creative skills and create something new that delights our audience. This is the story of BMW's iDrive, which is one of those get the right design situations, but with a result that did not delight their audience. And it's a story about what we can learn from this customer experience failure. Before I talk about iDrive, I'd like to illustrate the very real problem that iDrive was trying to solve. If I show you photos of electronics devices commonly found inside cars, like a radio or GPS, you would likely be able to identify them. And if you've driven a car lately, especially a luxury car, you've probably seen a lot of change in these controls. And therefore, a lot of change in your experience of the car. The interiors of our vehicles now have some combination of audio players, like CD players, satellite radio, and MP3 players, GPS navigation, voice commands, emergency notification, DVD players and live television, driving system settings, like adjusting the parking video cameras, internet access, and integration with mobile devices like your phone. There's so many devices, the category has a name, vehicle telematics. And jamming all this technology into a car risks turning the dashboard into an unfathomable mess. So automakers were forced to rethink how we interface with our cars. Simultaneously, deep inside the car, a similar advance in technology has occurred. Computers called electronic control units are increasingly used to control the engine, the transmission, the suspension, and many other vehicle systems. And once you have computers controlling, say, the suspension, you can give the driver control over its settings, for example, to choose sport mode or comfort mode. With these two simultaneous design challenges on their hands, inside the cabin and under the hood, you can understand how an automaker would want to control this chaos by unifying all the computers into one system. And once you consider unifying all the computers, it's a short mental leap to imagine a unified interface to let the customer control it all from one place. This was a chance not only to get the design right, but also to get the right design. Different manufacturers had different solutions to the problem. BMW, never a company to shy away from bold designs, introduced the most radical solution. Remove almost all buttons, knobs, and switches that weren't actually needed to drive the car, and replace them with a single dial. This dial is called the controller. It's located on the console between the two front seats, and it acts like a pointing device to control choices on a screen on the dashboard. The system is called iDrive. It debuted in September 2001 on the top-of-the-line 7 Series, a $70,000 sedan. That's about $93,000 in 2015 dollars. My first impression of this is, wow, this thing is beautiful. It's simple, it's elegant. From the vantage point of 2001, we hadn't seen dashboards this refined and uncluttered since the 60s. But that's not what the automotive media and design experts thought about iDrive. Consumer Reports said, most annoying was the needlessly complex iDrive control system, which we found distracting and judged potentially dangerous to use when driving. Edmunds.com said, quote, I am officially denouncing iDrive as a failure from both a technical and a functional standpoint. And Don Norman said simply, quote, I am appalled. Ouch. To understand these reactions, I think we need to understand the history of vehicle telematics. because that has shaped our experience and our expectations of what a good design is. I'm going to take you all the way back to 1901. At that time, the first mass-produced gasoline automobile was named for one of its most important features, the Oldsmobile Curved Dash. Dashboards in cars were a design feature, borrowed from horse and buggies, where they kept the dirt kicked up by the horse from hitting passengers in their clothing. The fundamental purpose of the first dashboards was to protect the driver. As cars became more sophisticated with devices like ignition switches and speedometers, the logical location for these devices was bolted to the dashboard, where the driver could easily see and reach them. By the Bronze Age of automobiles, starting around 1905, the dashboard was already firmly established in cars, from the 1908 Ford Model T in America to the 1910 Bugatti in France. Within decades, the arrangement of gauges and controls we're familiar with today became convention. And from the 1940s, design of the dashboard was more a matter of style than utility. In the 1970s, automakers experimented with LED-powered digital gauges, mostly to ill effect. For example, Lancia, the Italian automaker, had a model named Orca, with a dashboard covered with buttons and lights. One observer described it as having the complexity of a jet fighter with the aesthetics of a Fisher-Price toy. Automakers subsequently and consequently retreated from this path. By the 1980s, dashboards were again mostly an analog affair, sprinkled with occasional digital readouts. After decades of experiencing dashboard conventions, our expectations of what a dashboard should be were firmly set. Interestingly, in the 1990s, automakers began equipping cars with airbags on a large scale. So the dashboard, a device originally designed to protect, was again a center of protection. In 2001, BMW 7 Series was a large sedan and their top-of-the-line offering. It was a tour de force of automotive design and technology. The long list of features even included a brake drying feature. It periodically wiped the brakes dry whenever the windshield wipers were in use. And when Automobile magazine compared the 7 Series to counterparts from Mercedes-Benz, Jaguar, and Audi, the reviewers said that BMW had the edge in pure over-the-road driving behavior. But when the reviewers focused on iDrive, BMW's brand new telematics system, they found this one aspect of the car not only detracted from the driving experience, but actually jeopardized the fundamental brand proposition. And here's what they said. The BMW 745 Li should be the numero uno in this test, but its excellent performance at the test track and its even more impressive performance on challenging country roads are badly offset by iDrive. The iDrive system represents a layer of complexity that actually detracts from what ought to be a breathtaking driving experience. BMW bills itself as, quote, the ultimate driving machine, and our test car would have been all that and more without the iDrive. BMW demonstrated that ultra-high-tech and properly managed is actually a detriment to a great road car with great performance. Ouch! Car magazine reviewers usually focus on things like how fast it accelerates, how it handles, how it looks. They barely mention telematics. So how exactly did iDrive work, and what went wrong with it to warrant such a strong reaction? And can you imagine if you were chosen as the chief designer of iDrive? You create an elegant, simple system, you launch it into the world on a series of luxury automobiles, and receive this kind of reaction? What do you think you'd do next? I'm going to explore all these questions in the next episode of Noise Between Stations. Thanks so much for listening. For their help with this research, I'd also like to thank Michael Angelis, Scott Birkin, Kathy Brock, Keith Instone, Don Norman, Lou Rosenfeld, Joanne Simony, Ben Tedoff, and Lori Wildelitz Cavalucci. My theme song is by Nisha. Thanks to our sponsor, Rosenfeld Media. This podcast is an excerpt from my book, which is called Why We Fail: Learning from Experienced Design Failures. You can find it on Amazon, rosenfeldmedia.com, and O'Reilly.com. This has been Noise Between Stations. Until next time.